Click. Hi everyone. We should save, right? I think we should. Alright. I felt terribly forlorn and I wanted some source of support, someone who could protect me, something that would protect me. I'd be fine with anyone, so someone please extend a saving hand toward me. Suddenly I thought of Fess, Kishimoto Ayase's face, and the word she had given voice to when we met at school. I'd been lost in my delusions and hadn't heard them, but Missimi had said the following. Find your sword. Finding your sword will save you.
Ken.
If this were a game, I'd be a hero and we'd reach the usual cliche development of about me, my having to get my hands on a legendary sword to defeat the demon. I wonder what kind of a reference would that be? Without my seeking it out, I'd recently heard the keyword sword from two different 3D girls. And there remained a chance that Fess was my ally, although going by her attitude, Girl B, had she been called Senna, was most likely affiliated with the demon girl. A sword, huh?
剣だ。剣を手に入れるんだ。そうすれば。
I muttered to myself as though I'd gone off my rocker. For me it was the equivalent of clutching at straws. If I got a sword, I might be released from this nightmare. I couldn't help having such expectations. It wasn't that I believed that what Fess had said about it granting me salvation, but I lacked anything else to cling to. If nothing else, it'd be the best to research this. I was honestly expecting someone to sit there. I was already shitting my pants here. I got down to running an online search immediately. For the moment I started off by checking to see whether a sword similar to the ones carried by Fest and Senna had appeared in any anime. So if you've been wondering why I call it anime and not anime, it's because anime, written in katakana, is actually the English word in, I can't call it romanized, but it kind of is, in, katakana Japanese. So anime, animation. The full word is animation, right, written as that as well, with SEO at the end, so that's how it is. That's why it's not anime, but it's anime. Wow, you are so smart. Thank you, Mr. Sir. Just putting it out there for all you anime fans. Dude, you're a nerd. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Alright. But I couldn't spot anything like that in this season's crop of anime, at least. I'd expected as much. I normally check out all the recent new anime. I'm sitting in my yawn position here. Always, man. Always. God. It could be a real handful, given that lately there could sometimes be 30 or 40 new shows in one season. Seriously, dude, that is how it is. I'm trying to keep up, but I just can't. I can't. But I watched the first episodes of all of them, and then decided which to keep following. Of course, since there was YouTube, I didn't have any problems completing my lineup of anime from the BS and CS satellite subscription channels. Which was why there was no way I'd overlook any anime. And no such sword had appeared in any of the shows I checked. It was that distinctive looking. If it showed up, I'd ought to have caught my eye, but I have no memory of seeing one. Although I couldn't do anything about it if I'd seen it when I was being controlled by someone outside myself. Next, I tried running a search about the sword itself rather than the anime series.
くそ、ほとんどがゲームの攻略サイトじゃんか。
Terms I was closely familiar with, such as Anshu's Shangri-La Edge, kept popping up. At this rate, I wouldn't make any progress, even though I had to hurry up and find it. I had to sense that Sena had used a more concrete name when speaking of it. But what could it have been? Remember, your nightmare won't end unless you remember.
This sword.
Right, D-sword. I quickly stuck it in the input field and ran a search. I got hits. Only 2 of them, though. Even so, I was gradually starting to think of these 2 links as my road to salvation. With that said, the Sword of Life stood leashed upon the world and called the Sword, a fictional sword first birthed in ancient Europe by the hand of a legendary evil king Glajul. It is said that, as it was created to use humans' negative emotions as its nourishment, the Black Knights who bore it and battled in it all had their hearts eaten away by it in the end. It is distinguished from other holy swords and magical swords by the fact that it cannot be seen with one's eyes. Well, that's cool. So basically, it's kind of like Soul Eater. It's like a Soul Eater. What's that sword called that the guy in Soul Calibur had? I guess it was Soul Calibur. Derp. Holding down my excitement, I investigate them in order from top to down. Oh, shit. Get a page dead. Shit, what the hell? God, that's bullshit. Go back one more time and take a look at the cache. That's what I do. The page included an illustration, a recreation based on how the sword was described in works of the literature. Alright, so maybe I can read on ahead. When the unharmed knights raised their hands on a sharp wound would open up on their opponent's arm, severing it and sending it falling to the ground before they experienced any pain. Ancient legends frequently include this type of setting, in which one can surpass the physical laws of nature. And so the D-sword too appears in many pseudepigrapha and other forms of literature. Alright, that was easy. D-sword is often thought of as being the equivalent of the Japanese kamaitachi phenomenon. Kamaitachi are imaginary spirits. They have been depicted as weasels with razor-sharp scythes instead of arms. However, this is what results when one faithfully follows how the people of the past envisioned them.
元ネタは伝承か。
If one were to describe them in words, they are beings with a thin sense of reality to make them akin to spirits of the wind, but their existence has already been verified. What? Verified by modern science. It is a natural phenomenon that occurs in places where the air is extremely dry and the vacuum consequently cuts one's skin.
でもセナって女が持ってたのに比べるとこっちは随分地味だな。
In the first place, why was it such a minor sword? Why not go with the Excalibur or Kusanagi or something in the Major League? No, this wasn't the time to complain. Major or minor, it didn't matter as long as it could save me. I decided to explore a little more. Continuing, I clicked on the second hit. The words "I bought a D-cert" particularly concerned me. Was a D-cert something you could purchase? The blog's writer was apparently male, so I could deduce that he wasn't Demon Girl or Senna. I bought a sword. Seems like it's called a D-sword. It's so sketchy it's awesome. There aren't any other stores this weird and suspicious left in the capital metropolitan area, except in Akiba. But Akiba's underground stores really don't suit my interest because there's not really anything there except PC stuff and arrow books. That's not what I'm looking for. Shibuya used to have lots of underground stores too. Saying this might give away my age. But they disappeared with the flow of time. Yeah, he's an older guy, definitely. He's talking about shit like 96. I know, I've read about that. That said, his level of energy was far too different from that of Shogun. Was he a completely unrelated third party, or had the person behind the blog deliberately changed the particulars of how he wrote? I understood that no answer would come no matter how much I thought about it, so I stopped looking at the blog. More importantly, it seemed that the store he had mentioned, the one called Town Vanguard, was located in Shibuya. Man, that pier was amazing. Seriously, haha. If you were to ask me what was so amazing, well, it makes Town Vanguard look like something for beginners. Anywho, I'll let the nostalgia stop here. Even so, I'm curious about who questioned the D-sword. I'll admit that it's pretty big and it's a well-made toy, but I can't think of why it came in stock at Town Vanguard. Except maybe that it matches the tastes of the storekeeper, Yo-chan. Lately he's turned part of the store into a corner for fantasy-related weapons. Plus, the ones on display are lightsabers and light shuriken. Obvious fakes, so it's kind of disappointing. Although the light shuriken were so ridiculous that I bought them on impulse. 2 comments. I had a feeling that was too good to be true, but I also had a feeling that was destiny. There was another way to look at it. It was precisely because of this store and it was in Shibuya that It was precisely because this store was in Shibuya that I'd twice run into a girl holding a D-sword smack in the middle of Shibuya. Didn't I often hear things about that were secretly popular with various minority subcultures in Shibuya? You didn't read the comments! You should read the comments! For now I looked up Town Vanguard, but it didn't seem to have an official site. Instead I found an image-based intro page on an online map. If they didn't have an official site, that meant they didn't take orders online. I searched taboo auctions, but didn't come across anything likely looking. Which meant that my only option was to go to the store in person. I didn't want to go outside very much, but...
Now
I hadn't come to think of it as my sole absolute means of fighting back against the demon girl. I didn't know what I would do. In concrete terms, after obtaining the sword, I wasn't brave enough to use it to kill her or anything of the sort. Even so, I harbored the hope that if I got a sword, I would be somewhat freed of the terror that tortured me. Yeah, a D-sword was like a protective charm. It would surely strengthen my heart. Something about that sword strangely attracted me. We're going to Shibuya, boys. We're going to Ibiza. New CG. At any rate, it seemed that the store was located near Cat Street. That guy is there again. Is that Shogun? What's on that board? Kami kono... I think that says Kami. I can't see it. Cat Street is a twisty, winding road from Shibuya to Harajuku that runs about a block off of Meiji Avenue. Apparently, it had been built by filling in an area that was originally a stream. So that guy has been going around everywhere. That guy is Shogun. This guy. When I sang "Call It in the Air" for the first time, really long ago, before we actually met Yua. He was sitting on the floor against the in the CG. He would be sitting here. There would be a staircase here, like right here, pavement over there, and there'd be a guy sitting here on the floor with that board. Yes, I have a photographic memory. Thank you, so I can see it in front of me, even though you can't. I can see it right now, but you can't. There were various explanations behind why it had originally come to be called Cat Street, such as there being many feral cats, or because it was the sort of narrow patch that only cats would use. Well, not that it made much of a difference to me. Cat Street was fairly far away from me. By foot, it could easily take 15 or 20 minutes to get there. It'd be a quick trip by bike, but unfortunately I didn't have one. I decided to go by a route that took me past the plaza in front of the station, then past Shoto, by way of cutting through Miyashita Park. Setting a quick pace, I crossed the overpass that went over Meiji Avenue. This is a real picture yet again. So anyways, this is a new CG, I guess, but even though it's a picture of a real, actual street. Walk on the fucking pavement! I'd finally arrived. Growing ever more impatient, I'd become irritated at the distance. Cat Street had been quiet compared to the big shopping district, and its image was far closer to that of Harajuku than Shibuya. The stores lined up there were all chic shops. That, of course, had nothing to do with me. Go off and die, alright? Knowing that I was practically acting delirious as I walked along, I became even more annoyed. For me, being here was like playing in an away game. All those bastards around me thought they were damn cool. And there were more couples than in the shopping district. I can't see a single fucking couple! Except maybe these guys. Yeah, that seems to be it. Anyways. More couples than in the shopping district. Whatever. They probably wanted to act like they had money, even though they didn't. So chances were that most of them were window shopping. Lol. What a waste of time. I felt some regret, thinking to myself that I shouldn't have come after all, but I reminded myself that it was all for the sake of obtaining a sword, and determinedly put up with it. I'm so sorry I cannot read. For now, I went on having a staring contest with my map as I swiftly went along, rushing toward my destination while doing my best not to exchange looks with passerby. Down Vanguard was deep within a narrow side road that split off from Cat Street.
ここか。
Though it only ventured one side away from the main road, the avenues underwent a dramatic change. I think I got the wrong CG transfer. Fuck. It was a thin, narrow, dirty alley, one impossible for cars to pass through. On either side there were wood-built residences and out-of-business stores with closed shutters, which invariably came equipped with a spray-painted graffiti on them. Because that's a bug that can happen when you got these translation patches. It gives you like the wrong CG. Cat Road, which seemed so clean from the front, with all its high-class brand-name stores, was in no end more than a flimsy papier-mâché facade. Behind that facade lay any number of mercilessly discarded wrecks. Although I personally disliked both the front and the back, both were unfamiliar territory to me. The only place I ever wanted to go was Ensu. Even so, Town Vanguard had a far smaller, darker air to it than I'd imagined. I started to understand why the blogger who had mentioned it had described it as an underground store. Despite the fact that an open sign had been hung up, you couldn't say it was doing brisk business, even by way of flattery, and it was awfully hard to enter. How was I supposed to get in such a sketchy-seeming store when it was asking too much of me just to have me go alone to a gyudon shop? I want to go home. No, but I needed to get my hands on a sword no matter what. What was I supposed to do? I spent a little while going back and forth in front of the store. No one passed through this narrow alley. I'll while away for 30 minutes with my waffling. Ha! Waffles? Pancakes! Pancakes! But not a single person had gone by me. I decided to brace myself and go in, but then my courage failed me, causing me to abandon all hope, and I kept repeating the cycle innumerable times. But I couldn't go home empty-handed. This was the only place I could obtain a D-sword. Even though I understood that with my head, my instincts made me reluctant to enter the shop. Yawning! I imagined that maybe a clerk would come out for me. Of course, she'd be a cute maid, and she'd talk to me with the kind of voice you'd only hear in anime. She'd have a perfect grasp of exactly what I wanted, and she'd hold a D-sword out to me in a wonderfully friendly manner. Here you are. Please take the sword, master. Heh. Get the holder yourself. Chill out. Me. Heh. Just as I thought about how it'd be so much easier if only things would unfold in that way, a lone 3D girl appeared from within the store, as though my thoughts had reached her. Unlike in my fantasy, though her clothes were rather gaudy, the kind of thing that made you wonder what kind of nomad camp she'd snagged them from. Holy shit, I'm trying to read here, boy. Alright. Nomad camp she'd snagged them from. And her face, on the other hand, was amazingly glum. Her hair was cut in a bomba head style, with thin, frizzy ends, and creepy patterns were drawn on the bandana twisted around it above. I recognized that description. She said she was a store worker and had come out after seeing me wishy-washily going around outside. My fantasy hadn't exactly become reality. Well, but that was to be expected. Before I had any idea what was happening, the clerk forcibly led me inside, despite my having spent so long holding off on entering. I didn't have a chance to turn her down. New CG? I'm just gonna sit here and we're going to listen to this music full time. This is the kind of music that makes me shit my pants. This is music for Fallout 1 and 2, guys. Holy fuck. Listen to that bass. Dun, 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 dun. Alright. So in the end, I came in. It was all very well that I'd cleared the most excruciating hurdle, but if this store were under the demon girl's control, and everything about the D-sword had been a trap to lure me in, I'd have no right to complain about getting slaughtered on the spot. I swiftly surveyed the store's dim interior. There wasn't a single customer. The air was awfully stagnant and faintly hazy. The unpleasant mixture of the smells of tobacco and mold reached my nose. I'd probably start feeling ill if I stayed here for so much as 5 minutes. Though I'd spotted the items that might have been products, it was difficult to judge whether or not they were really for sale. All of them had been left out haphazardly, and there was no way to distinguish them from plain garbage. And for beginning, not one of them had a price tag. I didn't realize it when I came in, but there was a lot of porno merch. Among them, there were sorts of devices that you often see in rape, humiliation, eroge, and I was at a loss for a safe place to look. Apparently, this store was similar to a variety shop aimed at adults. After bringing me into the store, the clerk sat down on a stool beside the corner, zoning out as she smoked and showing no indication of continuing to meddle with me. She must have been one of the sources of the mist in here. Regardless of the fact that it had been less than a minute since I had first come in, nervousness, embarrassment, a weird sense of pressure, under pressure, and my feeling physically sick made nasty sweat seep out of my forehead. I wanted to leave this otherworldly place as fast as possible. I had to be quick about finding a D-sword. I walked toward the back as I browsed my way through the store. I soon located a corner for fantasy-related weapons, which had been written about in the blog I'd found. The one corner stood apart from the rest, being the only area with conspicuous colors. Numerous bowl-shaped toys had neatly been put up on display. All of the toys were long tubes, or rather, while they might have been different colors, virtually all of them were lightsabers. Moreover, one could tell right away from how badly they were made that were bootleg merchandise. I was skeptical of whether, pardon me, of whether they would really glow. It would seem that the light shuriken mentioned in the blog had sold out, which was also surprising. Except mixed with the lightsabers was just one item that obviously differed from the rest. One look was all that it took for me to know that it was a D-sword, because it was more or less the same as the illustration I'd seen online. I tried picking it up. It was unexpectedly light. I wondered what it was made of, though it seemed like soft vinyl. There was no blade, the edge was slippery, and of course it didn't hurt me in the slightest, even when I stroked it with my fingers. Compared to the ones held by Senna and Fess, it was poorly designed and lacked a sense of weight, and more than anything else, it didn't give me the sense that I could sever anything with the slightest of touches. I wondered if perhaps it was a fake. I was worried about it, but there wasn't anything else in the store you could have called a D-sword. Would this even shine in the first place? The D-sword Fess had swung about her show had glass parts embedded in its blade, which let off a blue light and looked incredibly badass. But there was no glass to be seen anywhere on the sword I had in hand. Maybe I ought to give up on buying it. This D-sword was so cruddily made as to make me reach that conclusion, never mind how long it had taken me to get here. But find your sword. Finding your sword will save you. I recalled Fess's words. Right. If I didn't buy it right here and now, I'd lose my only chance of obtaining a D-sword. It looked cheap at the moment, but maybe once it recognized me as its rightful master, it would manifest a mysterious power. Or maybe I'd seen too many anime and manga. But I'd sense just that sort of unknown power infesting Senna's sword, so even this sword must... what to do? While I debated myself, the clam came up and stood right behind me before I knew it. Smirking darkly, she pointed at the D-sword and murmured, 10,000 yen. I'll throw in a free bonus. At first, its absurd cheapness made me doubt my ears. I certainly hadn't thought it would be less expensive than a figure. I had built up a fair amount of savings from RMT, real money training, if you don't remember. And if it only cost 10,000 yen, I could get away with buying it simply by giving up on purchasing one figure. Upon hearing the price and the additional fact that it was the last one they had left, I came to an immediate conclusion. Free bonus was a cheap-looking bangle. Frankly, I didn't want it. I went through hell after buying it. Town Vanguard didn't do deliveries, so my only option was to carry it home myself. True or not, my excitement instantly cooled when I thought about how I'd have to cross the heart of Shibuya carrying such a stupidly long sword. But I'd already paid, and the clerk fiercely refused to let me perform a return. This was a pretty intense type of a humiliation play, having to haul a huge toy like this down a fashionable street. As expected, delinquent couples and stylish ladies went by with mocking smiles. Shit, they should all die. I hunched over single-mindedly and hastened on my way home, internally entertaining fantasies of taking the D-sword I'd just bought and slashing about it in the middle of the road, massacring innocent people, creating a festival of blood. Looks like we're back. I made it back at last. Partway through, I'd broken into a run and had kept at it ever since. So I was breathing hard by the time I reached my base. The cold looks from the other pedestrians had really stung. I was impressed with Senna for being able to endure this embarrassment. In a certain sense, it made me respect her. I stood no chance of following in her footsteps. An abrupt sound came from my blind spot, a place I couldn't see from here in the shadow of my base. Was someone there? Petrified in place, I gulped out my breath. And the ever so innocent smile of the demon girl who'd called herself Ademi popped into my head. Maybe she had come again. Maybe this time she'd come to kill me for real. What should I do? Should I run? I sensed her presence. The sunset cast someone's shadow across the ground. No matter how much I'd looked at it, the silhouette was female. I instantly readied my D-sword. When I actually held it up like this, it felt even less dependable than I thought. Senna's sword had possessed a mysterious formidability, hello, and an overwhelming kind of pressure that refused to let anyone near it. But the D sword in my hand didn't have anything of the sort. Maybe it really was a fake. Could I fight with something like this? Of course I couldn't. I couldn't do it, even if I had the real thing. Plus, I hadn't understood until I tried holding it the way I was now, but it was pretty heavy. Maybe I was gripping it wrong. In any case, it would be impossible to swing it around properly. The shadow unexpectedly wavered. It was approaching me. I squeezed my eyes shut and haphazardly slashed the sword out in front of me. I myself didn't think I'd be able to defeat my own opponent that way. Despite that, I harbored the faint hope that as long as I had this sword, I'd be okay. That'd somehow do something for me. But I didn't hit anything. My enemy didn't say anything. Could it be that the single strike from my D-sword had utterly destroyed the demon girl? If so, that'd be beyond amazing.
鬼、その剣何?
When I opened my eyes, the one standing there was Nanami, rather than a demon girl. I knew it was his sister too. Fuck me. She was looking at me a tad All of the strength went out of me at once. I flopped right down where I'd been standing.
お前脅かすなよ。
Well, that's it for this time. We're gonna save, and I'll see you guys next time, which will be next week, Sunday. Yeah, next week Sunday should be it. So I'll see you guys then.